Mr. Willie?
Here.
Mr. Matthews?
Here.
Mr. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Manella? Mr. Drum?
Here.
Mr. Randolph?
Here.
Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Over to my right on the railing, there are speaker cards as well as appeal cards. If you disagree with anything the commission votes on and decides on, you're welcome to file an appeal. The appeal will be heard by the council. Phones and pagers, please put them on vibrate or turn them off. Each side will have 10 minutes to speak with a 5-minute rebuttal time. And after your case is heard, don't discuss it in the chambers here. Please exit the building. Don't even go out in the lobby as the sound comes back in. Please rise for the invocation by Mr. Randolph and the pledge by Mr. Savant.
Gracious Father, once again we come to you with bowed down heads but lifted hearts to thank you for all the blessings you bestowed in our lives. Thank you for your grace and mercy. We thank you for the citizens of this parish. We thank you for this commission that's an independent branch that's trying to make the decision for the best interest of this parish and of our chamber of councils. In all these blessings, Lord, let us make decisions that's in the best interest of all. In all these blessings we ask in your Son Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Consent calendar. Any items not pulled from the consent calendar are automatically dispensed by vote as approved and or as per staff comments. Items pulled from the consent calendar will be discussed and voted upon individually. Staff, you have any to pull?
Yes, sir. We want to pull the first one, the minor subdivision MS 1407-045, Mr. Haygood's case.
Okay, is that the only one?
We also have a tabling on page 2, the third case, Simpson Farms, developer request postponement. Simpson Farms on a preliminary, third case.
Yeah, it's SD 1409-005P.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to pull the second case on the consent calendar.
Okay. Does anyone have anything else they need to, well, that's only
That takes
last
care of
item.
all of them.
I'll second that.
All right. We have a motion and a second to pull MS 14-07-045 and MS 14-08-048. And that's all your motion was on those two items, right?
It's only two on the consent calendar, I think.
Pardon?
Those, yeah.
Okay. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, MS 14-07-045, a 10.0 acre parcel into parcels A, B, and C, Ward 5, District 6. Owner is John Haygood. Surveyor is John G. Cummings and Associates.
Mr.
Parish
Chairman,
Council.
point of order, don't we need to table, have a motion to postpone?
Yes, we do.
I move to postpone case SD 14-09005P.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to postpone SD 14-09-005P. And we have a motion and a second. Please vote. Bill and Jimmy.
Do we need to approve the minutes?
All right, motion carries. I inadvertently skipped over the minutes from the August 12th meeting. There was a draft copy in your packet. Anyone have any corrections?
I have a question.
Mr. Matthews.
I thought SD 005P3, the Coquille, I thought we had decided to grant that and also at the same time grant a waiver on the development fee from what the staff thought the development fee should be. And that doesn't reflect in the minutes. I think
Todd, I think you'd made,
Mr. Richard made that motion.
That is correct. That's, even though it's been approved, it doesn't make comment about the developer fee, not agreeing with staff's recommendations, so that needs to be corrected.
okay. Any other corrections?
I don't have any other corrections and would move to accept. If there are no other corrections.
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the minutes as corrected, second by Mr. Richard. Please vote. Motion carries, thank you. All right. Now we'll go back to MS 14-07-045, a 10.0 acre parcel into parcels A, B, and C, Ward 5, District 6. The owner is John Haygood, surveyor is John G. Cummings and Associates. Parish Council Representatives, Honorable Richard Tanner. Staff?
Hey, Mr. Chairman, this is your recall, this was postponed from the last meeting. Our legal counsel wished to review this issue with the petitioner regarding the narrow road that was out there. So I believe he has to report based on their meeting.
Okay. Mr. Savant, do you have a report for us?
I do, and Mr. Haygood, I see you in the audience. Would you mind coming to the podium, please? Commissioners, if you recall, we tabled the matter last month because there was a concern regarding Honeysuckle Road, which the parish has a tacit dedication over as a public roadway. It's a gravel roadway about 1,600 feet long. And at its narrowest point, it's about 12 to 14 feet wide. And there was a little bit of concern about adding a couple of additional lots, even though these lots don't directly access Honeysuckle. They are on a private drive that does access Honeysuckle. And so when the commission tabled it, I had an opportunity to meet with Mr. Haygood out on Honeysuckle and talked about the concern that the parish had with at least part of the road being so narrow that Public Works was having difficulty accessing it to do proper maintenance on it, and also concern about adding additional lots that would access Honeysuckle, and the fact that it is so narrow, creating a potential public safety issue. Due to Mr. Haygood's cooperation, it was agreed that Public Works would go in and widen the road surface to 20 feet wide for the length of Honeysuckle Road. I know that Public Works has gone on to Honeysuckle and cleared some brush and posted some stakes, presumably which would mark the boundaries of the 20-foot wide road surface, but I don't know if there's been more work or anything else that's become of that project.
All they told me was that they would get back to it in a couple of months.
Okay. But nothing has changed as far as you're concerned, as far as the agreement where the road surface would be widened to a 20-foot.
The road surface can be, preferably, you ought to widen it to 35 feet and pave it. That's what you ought to do.
And someone from Public Works actually called me and said that he thought that you had expressed an interest in potentially doing that.
Yeah.
And I think that could be a very viable project as, let's call it, phase 2 of Honeysuckle, where we would get the road surface widened to the 20-foot to allow for the immediate issues to be addressed, and then we would explore the actions that are going to be required and the parties involved in what you're talking about is dedicating the entire road to the parish, not just the servitude, but the ownership of the land on which the road runs. Is that correct?
I don't know about dedicating, I might sell it to you.
Well, that's why I didn't specifically use the word donate.
Yeah.
That would just be a natural process. But yes,
But
we would be looking at the parish potentially purchasing that right-of-way.
Somebody was supposed to go talk to the adjoining owner, the other one owner. I never did hear anything about that.
Yes, that was Ms. Catherine Ullman. I did go speak with Ms. Ullman about a week ago and told her that we plan to widen the road to the 20-foot, and that would include the amount of frontage that she said that she owns on Honeysuckle, and she said she had no problem with that. Okay. She even expressed an interest, without me knowing that you were even interested, that she would be interested in potentially selling land to the parish as well to improve the road even further. So it sounds like
She's the only other person other than a family member of mine that owns any land fronting on Honeysuckle.
Okay.
Plus, one other point, I've got children that want to build 2 houses. That's, you know, on my property. I've got 90 acres there. I own 2,800 feet of right-of-way on Honeysuckle Road and have for the last 50-something years. So it looks to me like they should be able to build their houses. Yeah, that's all. I'm donating it to them. This is not a subdivision per se. Yeah, this is just an event.
Well, right, and we talked about that, Mr. Haygood, and I feel comfortable recommending to the commission at this time that, you know, that it would be okay, at least from the original Public Works and Public Safety perspectives, for the commission to consider approval of this subdivision, you know, with the understanding that we have your concurrence in that project of widening the road base to the 20-foot.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Ms. Casabon?
Yes, nobody here in opposition, I'll make a motion.
Excuse me, before we make the motion.
Yes, sir.
Just kind of make sure we cover all of our bases here.
Correct.
It's contingent upon him doing what Mike said, you know, that he,
Okay.
you know, we don't want to record the plats until that issue has been resolved. He also has to construct the road to his own 35-foot wide right-of-way that he's providing to the back of the parcel. He needs to construct that to parish standards. He also needs to name the roadway, and he also needs to provide a 5-foot wide utility servitude for AT&T. I just want that in the motion.
Well,
Is that,
you're talking about maintaining doing something to parish standard, the standard in the subdivision
Yes,
ordinance?
as we discussed, yes.
The 35 feet?
Yes.
All right, and there's no utilities on this road. I'm not opposed to the 35
Right,
feet.
but CLECO is making that request because they're gonna be having to maybe provide service eventually once your daughters build on the back of the property, wanna have ability to get utilities to
CLECO
that back.
doesn't work out there.
AT&T. AT&T
REA,
wants the servitude.
whoever, Washington, St.
Okay,
Tammany.
well, they're already in my road. They're.
Well,
they've got the lines in
I'm
it
just
already.
conveying what AT&T
Yeah.
wishes.
Well, I don't, you know, I'm not opposed to the 35-foot thing. I think it's a little bit odd that, yeah, we're gonna serve my dog.
Like I said,
not to-
that's up to the commission. It's just a request by AT&T.
do you object to that? Are you objecting to it?
No, not really. Yeah, all I wanna do is say that, look, this is a mother, a father, and 2 daughters working off of a driveway. We don't want a big road going through our property. You know, not the public road, but my driveway, I really don't want it 35 feet wide, but I'll do it. You know, I think it ought to be left the way it is. It's already there. It's been there for 14 years.
All right, well, Ms. Casabon,
Yes,
you
I
have a
no
motion.
problem. I have a motion. First of all, I'd like to say that, yes, we tabled this last month because we were concerned with the safety, even if it is your own family safety. We do know that in the future, there are things that happen, that they may have to sell this. We don't know. That's something we don't know about the future, but we do know is we want the roads to standards no matter who lives back there, whether they're family or they end up having to sell it to someone. In order for our parish to service people, the telephone company to service people, these are the things that are required from these different utilities. I'll make a motion that the not be recorded until The honeysuckle is brought to standards, as you discussed, that we name the right-of-way, and then we have the 35-foot standard easement for the utilities. Anything else? Did I forget, Ron? Did I hit them all?
Yeah, it's to construct the road to Parish
To construct
standards, and
standards.
of course, now again, the utility servitude was a verbal thing, it was not written. I don't have anything official in the file, so I mean, it's up to you to make that decision.
Well,
whether you
again,
require that
it's
or
looking
not.
out for a development that's going in that we don't know the future, but we do know that we want these
I don't
brought
see
to
the harm
standard.
in, as long as Mr.
Right,
Hagan
and he
doesn't
said he didn't
issue
have
with
any
it,
objection to 35 feet. So on those issues, I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Casabon, a second by Mr. Willie. Mr. Matthews?
I just got one clarification. The understanding is nothing will be done until all of the work on Honeysuckle Road has been either contracted for or done. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay,
The
we're gonna
plat-
widen
the plats
Honeysuckle
can-
Road.
Yeah, the plats
bring it up to
cannot be
standard.
recorded until he's constructed his 35-foot wide right-of-way road, and the parish is satisfied with the construction for Honeysuckle.
Okay.
Correct, Mike?
Mr. Davis?
Yeah, I have one question for staff. If I recall, the last time I saw this, parcels A, B, and C, has the design of this changed a little bit?
No. Same.
So they still have, parcel B does not go completely across the entire property line?
That's correct. It's my understanding, well,
Okay.
Mr. Hager can explain that there's a pond on the other side of the property, and he wants to use that as a potential secondary access to get access to the pond.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hagan. All right, next item, MS 14-08
Where does that leave me? I can't do anything until the parish does something. Then, how do I make the parish do what they're supposed to do? I've already done everything I can possibly do. My children want to build their houses, so, you know, I have to be able to do something with it.
Well, at this point, Mr. Haygood, it's my understanding that Public Works is ready to proceed with the widening of Honeysuckle to the 20-foot wide right-of-way. And I think the only remaining issue is bringing your private drive up to the 35-foot standard.
Okay, well, that's no problem. That's going to be done, but, you know,
Right.
I mean, it's already there.
But it should all happen pretty quickly. I'm not aware of anything that might cause a delay. You know, if
Well,
the parish, if
So
Public Works,
I can't donate it to my children until
This needs to go.
somebody's finished with the parish.
No, like Mike said, the parish is going to be responsible for doing the work on Honeysuckle Road. You are going to be responsible for doing your part on the construction of your 35-foot wide right-of-way.
When can I donate it?
You can't donate it until that right-of-way has been completed and constructed, and engineering's had a chance to inspect it and approve it.
The right-of-way.
Right, the 35-foot wide
35,
right-of-way, the
not
20-foot
100%.
wide gravel surface or whatever the
Right.
surface you want to do,
Not-
that we've
not
talked about
Honeysuckle
several
Road.
times in the past.
Good.
Yeah, once that's been completed, by that time you get that completed, I'm sure that the parish will be well on its way to improving Honeysuckle Road. It won't be a hazard anymore, or a potential safety hazard, and you can move forward with recording your plats.
Well,
and Ron, is it my understanding too that the survey would need to be updated to reflect the utility servitude?
Yeah, it would just show the update and, of course, the road name for the private
I
drive.
already talked to the surveyor. He's
Ron?
got the road.
Okay.
Are we not gonna sign the plats until Honeysuckle is finished too?
No, that's not my understanding. Once the parish does its due diligence and starts the construction work, Mr. Haygood is no longer a party to that unless he wants to be involved at a later date with the improvement of the roadway and so on and so forth. But what we want right now is just to make sure that he constructs his road to a parish standard, and that the parish is in the process of getting that road upgraded so it doesn't become a safety hazard.
Okay.
I don't think we should be holding up Mr. Haygood because of the parish, no.
Okay, all right.
And that's acceptable.
Okay, all right.
That it?
All right, next item's, MS 14-08-048, Lot 2 consisting of 4.056 acres into lots 2A and 2B, Ward 7, District 7. The owner is Lisa and Keith McElrath. Surveyors J.V. Burks and Associates, Parish Council District Representatives, Honorable Jacob Grovey. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is just a simple proposal where the, where the owner of the property has one piece of property, they want to divide it into two parcels, but because the rear parcel has private drive access, they're required to have a public hearing. It meets all parish code requirements.
Okay, thank you, Ron. All right. We have anyone, Lisa or Keith McElrath, are they in the audience? Yes, sir. You have any questions or comments you'd like to make on this? Okay. Mr. Davis, this is Ward 7, District 7. Are you familiar with this?
I'm sorry, which one are we talking about? I'm sorry.
MS 14-08-048, page 1, this is second item under minor subdivision.
Oh, this is the one on Miss Lou Road?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with this one, as long as it's exactly 1.0 acres in the back, since it's an A2 subdivision. Suburban, right? It's A2, so that meets the
Correct.
requirements.
Correct.
So, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay?
And this property does not have
Jimmy, turn your mic on.
Sorry, I'm sorry. This property does not have a, is the owner of this property here?
Yes, sir.
You're not gonna put a mobile home on lot 2B, right?
No, it's for my son.
Okay, so you can have his son so you can build a house back there for, yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion by Mr. Davis, a second by Mr. Matthews. Any further discussion? Please vote. Who had voted? Ron,
Mr. Ron.
you vote? Okay, it came up now. All right, thank you, motion carries. All right, page 2. Revocations and closings review, REV 14-07-001, revocation of a portion of Powerline Road located on the north side of Louisiana 40, northwest of Bush, Louisiana, Ward 5, District 6. The applicant is James P. Stoynoff, and the surveyor is Johnny Bono and Associates. This is Honorable Richard Tanner's council district. Staff?
Hey, Mr. Chairman, as the commission recalls, you tabled this or postponed it at last month's meeting due to some issues with the roadway leading to lots of record that the staff was concerned with. So you asked us and the applicant to get together to try to see if we can come up with a solution. And I believe we have. Now, I will go ahead and read the staff report, which includes the update in our recommendation. The applicant wishes to revoke a 40-foot wide strip of Powerline Road that traverses through 4 of the owner's 5 parcels, primarily due to the fact that the roadway dead ends at the northern end of his properties from Louisiana Highway 40, which the applicant claims is being used by people who are illegally dumping waste and garbage at said dead end and are using said roadway and his properties to drive ATVs, exposing them to liability issues. Typically, since the roadway is completely surrounded by the applicant's 5 parcels and serves no other public benefit other than to the applicant himself, the staff would have no objections. However, in this case, there are extenuating circumstances, as we discussed at the meeting last month and I just mentioned to you. After hearing testimony from the applicant in last month's meeting, the commission did postpone this matter pending the applicant and staff getting together to try to work out a solution. As the commission is aware, per the staff report offered at last month's meeting, the staff had offered 2 options for the applicant to consider that would result in a solution to this matter, which was for the applicant to either participate in the parish's minor subdivision process or to amend his deed and titles, resulting in the assimilation of these properties into adjacent parcels that have public road access. After discussions with the applicant's attorney, I'm happy to report that the applicant has agreed to participate in the parish's minor subdivision process which in turn results in the staff dropping his objection to the revocation request, subject to the revocation ordinance not being signed off until the minor subdivision application has been submitted, reviewed, and approved by the parish. Furthermore, if the commission and the council approve the revocation request, the survey plat needs to be amended to account for a request by AT&T also for a 5-foot utility servitude along the roadway.
Thank you. Are the Stanoffs in the audience?
I'm Mr. Soinoff's attorney,
Okay,
Martha Jumonville.
all right.
And at the last meeting, the problem that my client had, and I know you see a lot of these, so you may not remember, the problem that we had is that these are large tracts of land. One is a 77-acre tract, an 18.55-acre tract, and a 26-acre tract that he purchased in different groups. And the 18 acres was really purchased as a 2.5, and a 14.5 acre tract. So those were the ones we were going to have to do the minor subdivision, we're going to have 2 parcels, which meant that he had to go survey all of those things. And so our objection was to complying with that, was that the cost was going to be prohibitive. But since that time, I have met with Ron and 2 of the parish attorneys the following week, and I have gotten with the surveyor, and the surveyor is willing to use a recent surveys by another surveyor in order to draft the resub plat, and for a very nominal fee. So we have never been opposed to combining the parcels of record that would be in the center of this, and now we have a reasonable survey cost, so we are proceeding, and we have ordered the minor subdivision plat to be drafted by John Bono. So we are, I think all in agreement with what the staff had requested.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Casabon?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve as per staff request. Do the resub, minor subdivision.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Casabon, seconded by Mr. Richard. Mr. Matthews?
Ron, exactly how is the minor subdivision application going to work with this? What exactly are they going to have to do now?
Well, they're gonna file an application, as Martha indicated, Ms. Jumonville, they are going to combine those interior parcels either with the 26-acre tract on the northeast side or the 77 acres to the south off the highway, so that they will comply with the minor subdivision ordinance requirements. They will file an application, we will take them through that process. It shouldn't take that long to go through that process, and then once it's been, because the roadway is going to basically become a private roadway in the minor subdivision, which is already pretty much constructed to the parish standard anyway. He'll simply now own the road instead of the parish.
I believe that we have a misunderstanding on that, because our choices were to either not do the resub or the minor subdivision and combine the interiors with one of the exteriors, because we have a 26-acre parcel that fronts on Jenkins Cemetery Road that was purchased separately. We have the 77 acres that fronts on, Highway 40, and then we have the interior parcels. So the minor subdivision request that we'll be submitting will be the 77 acres and the 18 acres. The 26 acres is already a separate parcel that has its own adequate frontage.
That's correct.
So
We're on the same page.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I thought you said we were combining it with one or the other. That was what
No.
we were doing without the minor subdivision,
That's correct.
which okay. But
Yeah.
now that we have the nominal thing, so
That's
we
right.
will have.
They're not necessarily taking the interior lots, combining them with the 26 acre or
Right.
the 77. They're going to combine the interior lots into one parcel.
Right, and our
The
2
the
parcels.
14.5, the 2, and the 2.05
for the
parcels
18 for the
will
18
become one parcel.
That's correct.
That's correct,
Okay.
right.
Correct.
And
Which
the
we never
road,
objected to, we just hated to pay all the surveying costs, because we couldn't just survey the 18 acres, we had to survey the 77 acres with it, which was gonna cost thousands of dollars. But now he will draw the plat without the benefit of an actual ground survey, and will certify it as a survey because he trusts the other surveyor who we cannot find.
Okay.
okay,
So,
And because the 26 acre parcel in the northeast has public road access, the 77 acre parcel has access on the highway, they technically are only going to be providing their private drive, which is Power Line Road, to one parcel
one
internally.
single lot.
Which does not require any special construction
And-
standards, but
Okay,
it's
and
already
this
there.
road currently is owned by the parish,
That's correct.
and they're going to buy it from us.
They're going to buy it from us, that's
Okay.
correct.
Mr. Davis?
All this because you want to put a fence on Highway 40 down power line. No,
Well-
I'm just saying, I mean, this is legal now, correct?
The owner,
So now you
yes.
can put a fence on Highway 40 and keep those ATV and illegal dumping off of the property that you're gonna own.
That's exactly
Thank you.
right. Thank you.
All right, any further discussion? We have a motion and a second. Please vote this is to approve. Ron? Yeah, you there. All right, we got 8 now. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Motion carries. All right, preliminary subdivision review. SD 04-08-024, PB 2-1, Beatico Creek, Bubble 2.1, Ward 1, District 1. Developer owners Beatico Creek Preserve LLC. Engineers Kelly McHugh and Associates. Parish Council District Representative is Honorable Marty Dean. Staff?
The preliminary plans and hydrologic study have been reviewed by this office and an inspection was made of the site. It is recommended that preliminary submittal be approved subject to the following. The calculation sheet from CEI submitted shows 56.5 acre-foot of excess retention storage available, not floodplain storage. Fill calculations showing adequate fill mitigation must be submitted. Items B, C, and D are okay. Item E, the fill calculations calculated ditches for floodplain storage. The driveways must be considered in this calculation. That's actually been corrected, but there is some notes that need to be put on the plat. One of them is that the subsurface drainage must be restricted, and then also fill for foundation and driveway only. Item F, need stormwater site is okay, actually. Item F's okay. No maintenance obligation is required since this is an extension of a private subdivision. No mandatory developmental fee is required at final submittal in accordance with ordinance number 04-0990 since a public hearing was held prior to January 1st, 2005. Department of Environmental Services has comments.
Plans and specifications for the construction of the project's water distribution lines and sewage collection lines have not yet been approved by the Department of Health and Hospitals as required. No work order will be issued until the submitted plans and specifications are approved by DHH. Development has no comments.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Daugherty. Paul Marone on behalf of Beatico Creek Preserve LLC. In regards to Beatico Creek Bubble 2-1, staff noted I think we've addressed all of the latest round of the staff comments with regards to the two notes that we need to have on the face of the plat. We have no objection to doing that, and we'll have those added as requested. In regards to the environmental services comments, we are still waiting on DHH, but the submittals have been made. The plans are in that office, and we expect to have their approval shortly. With that said, I'll be happy to answer any questions that the commission may have, but we would respectfully request approval of our preliminary submittal for Bubble 2A of Beatico Creek.
Thank you, Mr. Morone. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this? Mr. Pug.
Item under the engineering department packet that we got, item 2B, how was that addressed?
There was some confusion on the calculations. Mr. McHugh was able to clarify that in fact with regards to this bubble, we have a reduction of 35%. Okay. So we're in excess of the 25% required.
Okay.
That answer your question? Mr. Matthews.
So that was a calculation error on the part of the staff or somebody? Is that right, Paul?
There was some confusion on either what was provided, either on staff's part or on the original numbers by Mr. McHugh. But that has now been clarified with the backup necessary to evidence that it's the 34%, which is in excess of the 25 required.
The original table that they gave us had a typographical error on it, and the number was incorrect, so it looked wrong.
Okay, typos happen. On 2A, the calculation sheet from CEI, somebody tell me what CEI is?
Cooper Engineering, I
Okay.
believe, they were the original engineers on this project at its advent. And so there are some calculations that they established early on that are carrying through the project. Based on really 2A, it's semantics to some extent. The concern was that we referenced excess retention storage and not floodplain storage. Well, in fact, in Beatico Creek, they are one and the same because all of Beatico Creek is in the floodplain. So to the extent that you have retention there and there is storage in the retention, it is likewise in the floodplain, so it would be one and the same.
Okay. That answers the second question I had there. On D, BCCMP. Guys, I know you probably use these terms all the time. I don't have a clue what that is. Can somebody tell me what that is?
I can tell you from a layman's standpoint, and then they can tell you what it really means. It has to do with what kind of culvert we have out there.
Right, just culvert, the type of culvert, bituminous coated, corrugated metal pipe.
That's what it is? And the plans show it should be concrete? Or it should be concrete and the plans show corrugated?
No, what happened was they were using a different end value. It's a Manning's coefficient for the roughness on the inside of the pipe, how the water flows against it. It's the friction of it.
Don't have a clue.
Okay,
What you
perfect.
just said.
Mr. Matthews, we have corrected that coefficient to reflect the concrete surface.
Good. Boy, that makes me feel a whole lot dumber. On the plat, that's the preliminary paving and drainage plan. You've got some, a shaded area here, 747 and 728. Can you tell me what that represents? I didn't see it on here, I probably missed it, but I don't see it, what that represents.
747 and 728.
Yeah. It's on the paving and drainage plan. I don't think it's on the other one.
Doesn't reflect on the, here we go. It's a fill area. It's an area that is proposed to be filled pursuant to the drainage plan.
Okay, and that's not a problem with the fill? I mean, okay.
No.
And a $64,000 question. The parking areas, they're fine, I guess, but could you explain why we have parking areas right in the middle of this subdivision? Just curious.
Well, I think the primary reason for that is that this particular bubble is more of a garden home type lot, which means the lots are small. And the concern in other garden home pods or bubbles is that when you have visitors and guests, there's really no place for them to park. And this provides additional parking in those instances.
Answers the question. Thank you.
Mr. Davis.
Yeah, one question, Paul. So will you or will you not have subsurface drainage?
No.
Thank you.
Mr. Randolph.
I'm sorry, that was my question had to relate to item E. I heard something about subsurface drainage, and that's what I wanted to know. Thanks.
Okay. Any further discussion, Bub? We have a motion by Mr. Lauren to approve, second by Ms. Casabon. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, next item is SD 04-01-00PB, Gust Island Estates, Partial B, Ward 1, District 4. Developer owner is Gust Island Holding, LLC. The engineer is Kelly McHugh and Associates, Incorporated. The Honorable Reed Falconer is the district representative. Staff?
The preliminary plans and hydrologic study have been reviewed by this office and inspection was made of the site. There are no punch list items for this project. It is recommended that preliminary submittal be approved. No maintenance obligation is required since one already exists for this phase. No mandatory developmental fees is required. at final submittal in accordance with ordinance number 04-0990 since a public hearing was held prior to January 1st, 2005. Department of Environmental Services has comments.
Plans and specifications for the construction of the project's water distribution lines and sewage collection lines have not yet been approved by the Department of Health and Hospitals as required. No work order will be issued until submitted plans and specifications are approved by DHH. Development has no comments.
Thank you. Mr. Shane.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm, and I represent the owner and developer, Gust Island Holdings LLC. We're in full accord with all staff comments, particularly those items that are required. If you see fit to grant this preliminary subdivision approval this evening. So we ask that you grant preliminary approval subject to staff comments. If any of you have any questions or comments, I'll be glad to address them.
Thank you, Mr. Shane. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this? I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commission. Mr. Davis.
Yeah, Mr. Shane. I like the little clusters that you have in the very front off the road, like S1, S2, S3. Is there a reason for that? Is that because of the drainage, to assist maybe the drainage from the backside to go into the pond? I just like that. Is it, or is that for like visual appeal from Gus Island Road?
It was just by chance.
Really? Because it looks,
No,
I think it would be excellent.
It was due to extensive planning in light of comments that have been made through the years about.
I mean, I really like that. Okay. No,
I'm trying to follow Mr. Maroon's lead, because I listened to him very carefully.
no, and I just gotta give my kudos to you, sir, because the Gus Island Estates development you've done is excellent.
Fantastic. This will be really nice, too.
It's excellent, thank you. And also the existing pond
Yeah,
that
that's
you
the
have
big there?
existing
triangle
It's got some awesome bass fishing in there.
Yeah.
Just to let you know.
Yeah, it's about
Okay.
30 feet deep.
I've been there many a time. Thank you. I make a motion to approve.
I second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Mr. Casabon?
Jeff, I just want to say that this is how we should get these things. Virtually no comments, no problems, no questions. This is what they ought to look like when we get them.
Well, I think my engineer, Mr. McHugh, deserves that, but we appreciate that comment, and we try hard to obviously bring it to you as clean as possible.
Thank you very much. All right, please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, ST 1409-005P has been postponed, so we go to final subdivision. SD 04-05-015F4, North Point Business Park, Phase 4, Ward 1, District 3. Developer owners, North Point Business Park LLC. Engineer is Acadia Land Surveying LLC. This is an Honorable Red Thompson's council district. Staff.
An unlimited work order was issued August 13th, 2014 for this phase. However, no work has commenced at the site. Since the infrastructure has not been completed, the developer is requesting that a performance obligation be established for a period of 6 months. See attached letter dated August 23rd, 2014 from the developer's engineer, Aero Engineering and Consulting Incorporated. Should the Planning Commission approve the request for final approval, a performance obligation will be required for the infrastructure construction. See engineer's cost estimate. The staff has reviewed the engineer's cost estimate and agrees with the contents. It is recommended that performance obligation be established in the amount of $353,693 for the period of 6 months. No warranty obligation is required at this time and will be established upon completion of the infrastructure and release of the performance obligation. The following items need to be resolved prior to initiation of construction. The cul-de-sac as shown on the subdivision plat needs to conform with the cul-de-sac as shown on the final engineering plan, sheet C1. The subdivision plat and the final engineering plat need to agree with regards to the drainage canal or drainage channel at the eastern edge of Tract A. Need delineation line between flood zone A and C on the subdivision plat. No mandatory developmental fees are required since a public hearing was held prior to January 1st, 2005. Department of Environmental Services and Department of Development have no comments.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience here representing this? Yes, sir.
Yes, my name's Chris Lopez. I'm the developer, North Point.
All right. I guess, I think there's some questions about approving a subdivision that hadn't even been constructed and final. I'm going to let some of the other commissioners, Ms. Casabon, you have a comment?
Yes, I had one. If we, with the staff report, staff, you are okay with us, approving this with no signing the plats?
No, the plats would be signed prior to the construction.
Prior to the construction, that's right. I'm just not familiar with this one, as I've said. I'll see if anybody else has any comment.
Mr. Matthews.
Yeah. No work has been commenced on this site at all?
Yeah, I'm Darrell with Aero Engineering. The way I understand it, and staff can correct me if I'm wrong, but FedEx couldn't get a building permit until final approval was given. And this is a 200-foot extension of an existing road is basically all we're doing. And so in order for FedEx to get a building permit, we're asking for final approval on this section of road while we're, and in order to do that, we're going to provide a performance obligation that is basically a insurance that the work will be done. That's how it happened.
Well, that puts us in a bad spot. We're approving a final on a subdivision where not a lick of work has been done. That's really unprecedented. The other question I have is, I've seen a lot of engineering estimates of what construction will cost. The Recreation District I'm on the board of has done numerous construction projects, and the estimates of the engineers are always low. So if we were to do this, I would really want to see a bond significantly higher than $353,000, because all of this, if we're forced to do it, it's going to cost more than this. And the amount to increase a bond generally is not significant when you go from 353 to 400 or 450 or something like that. I don't think that makes that big of a difference. But for us to go out on a limb here and approve a final and hope that your estimate is right, I really don't like that position and would not be in favor of it.
Mr. Matthews, we have put up and have in escrow, which was part of the sale of the piece of property, $421,000 going toward completing this road. Which represents 125% of the $353,000.
I remember it now.
That wasn't told to us at all. You have money in escrow, staff? Is that? Do we know anything about that?
I don't know. They know about it, but one of the requirements for the sale or for the purchase of the property was that we put up 125% of the estimated amount of completing the road.
Okay, that doesn't do anything for the parish.
No.
If you know, and I understand
you
all are planning on going through with this, and you see no reason that you won't. No, I understand all of that, but if lightning strikes tomorrow and you don't, then that $423,000 doesn't go to the parish to finish this, does it? Staff, correct me if I'm wrong.
353 does, doesn't it?
Yeah, it would just be the performance bond of $353,693.
That's all we have, not the 400 and whatever you were talking about. You have an escrow someplace. So I mean, that's great that you have an escrow, but that doesn't help the parish And like I say, I'm not sure that I've ever seen any of these construction estimates to hit the mark. And maybe this is the one that does, but I'm uncomfortable with it.
Mr. Davis?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a final subdivision staff analysis without periodic inspections on it. I mean, that's what I'm just I'm confused about. Has this ever happened?
There's been no construction commenced yet on the site.
It
so we
has,
wouldn't-
it has happened in the past as far as other projects where we have actually not had the infrastructure in and they have put up performance bonds to cover the cost. I don't know specifically which cases, but I know there's at least a couple.
Terabella
what was it?
came through here
Terabella,
just
was it?
recently, I think
Yeah.
in May.
Yeah, with the Home Depot site. I
184
think Jeff actually
Terabella.
handled that
This
one.
is-
I just don't, yeah, I mean,
Had a lot
but
of
we,
work done, but they weren't finished.
yeah,
And this,
Can I ask a question of staff?
Just a minute, Martha.
Well, that might clear up something.
Jimmy, I believe you had your light on.
yeah, I to be honest, I don't even recall what this looked like. I mean, was there a preliminary? Was there a tentative and all that? No?
This
So
is,
how can we approve this?
There was a preliminary.
yeah, it went
Yes.
through, yeah,
went through all the
it went
process.
through the full process of tentative and preliminary, yes.
Okay, okay.
Ms. Casabon?
yeah, now it's coming back. I'm sorry, I had a brain freeze. North Park, this was, so you're saying that this is one of those sections or one of those pieces or parcels within that park that the road was not extended, and this is what they're trying to do, is extend the road so we can get the FedEx in, which is a major company. I do remember now, and this, we have done this before on other major projects, because the land is there, and it has been part of this subdivision. I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Casabon to approve. Do I hear a second? Not hearing a second. Second by Mr. Willie. Mr. Richard?
Would it serve a purpose to ask if you would consider increasing the performance obligation to satisfy the concerns that were brought up by Mr. Matthews?
What are we talking?
Well, you've got
400,000?
420 some odd $1,000 in escrow.
21.
421. Mr. Matthews, would that suffice for a performance obligation as well?
That would go a long way, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
would it suffice as far as obviously gaining support this evening? I mean, there's no sense in
Yeah,
asking
for it. Yes, I think it would.
I agree.
Okay.
Okay, subject to, would you be willing to amend that motion to include an increase in the performance obligation?
If the petitioner's willing to do that, 400,000.
That's correct.
421,000.
How much do you have in escrow?
421,000.
Okay.
Once, twice.
All right.
That's
Mr.
in my
Savant,
motion.
has a comment.
Well, the only thing I wanted to ask staff is the road extension that Mr. Darrell referenced, is it concrete or asphalt?
It's
It's concrete, 6-inch concrete? Okay, I do want to note that our subdivision regs call for a performance obligation using a $60 per foot, per linear foot value on the performance obligations for streets. I don't know if that's applicable in this case. I just happen to note that their proposal appears to have a $48 per linear foot value.
That's per square yard. In cases like this, we do the engineer's estimate. The performance obligation is a separate issue. And the performance obligation takes into account the road and the infrastructure along it. In this case, it's all broken down into individual pieces. You know, the utilities, the roadside drainage, all that's separated out into different items.
Okay, so even though it may be presented as square yards or cubic yards, you're able to do that calculation and correlate it to the code provisions as it relates to values per linear foot?
I haven't looked to see what the value would be per linear foot on this. This is a little bit different. This is the engineer's estimate based off of each individual item that needs to be done for this specific project. The performance obligation of 60 a foot refers to performance obligations, not that what we're doing tonight.
Well, and that's my question. As long as what the engineer is proposing, as far as how he came up with the values for the performance obligation that he's proposing is consistent with the per linear foot values that our 499 regs talk about regarding performance obligations, I think that's appropriate.
Yeah, well, I believe it's about 200 linear feet and over 350,000, so that's going to be more than $60 per linear foot.
Well, that's true, except that the work involves something other than road work. It involves sewer work, it involves water works, and it involves drainage works. So that's what I'm saying. I think that there needs to be a confirmation, whatever that value should be, the number that Ms. Kasdaban quoted, that number should verify or confirm with what the regs say, and perhaps the commission should consider requiring a higher amount if that's necessary to comply with the dollar amounts per linear foot that is within the code.
If it's 200 linear feet times $60, that would be $120,000. If you look at the road work alone, it's $265,000. So it easily exceeds the $60 per linear foot.
And in addition, we've just gotten their agreement to increase that amount. So I think, although we're doing rough math here, it's the
More
parish
than
is
enough.
safe.
Yeah.
All right, Ms. Casbon?
Nothing, I was just saying that based on our staff, I guess I have a lot of trust in our staff in looking at these engineering reports and coming pretty close that they are looking out for the parish and that this would be substantial, that they know what they're doing.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to amend the engineering estimate from $353,693 to $421,000. All right, now this is an amendment, so we'll vote on the amendment first. Please vote. Motion carries. Now we need to vote on it as amended, I believe. We need to vote on this.
Motion to approve as amended.
Pardon?
Motion to approve as amended.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Richard, seconded by Mr. Willie to vote on as amended. Please vote. All right, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right, SD 1405-003 F7A, Money Hill Plantation, Phase 7A, Ward 6, District 6. Developer owner, Money Hill Plantation LLC. The engineer is J.V. Burks and Associates Incorporated. This is an Honorable Richard Tanner's Council District staff.
Yes, Sean with J.V. Burks actually gave me some plans and some inspections. We haven't had a chance to review them, so we're just going to go through with the punch list items. Periodic inspections have been made by this office during construction, and the final inspection was made on August 27th, 2014. The inspection disclosed that 80% of the roads are constructed, road shoulders need to be dressed, and the roadside ditches need to be graded. The following uncompleted items existed at the time of final inspection and will be completed before the plats are signed. Complete roadway construction, shoulders, and roadside ditches. Revise as-built drawings to indicate all required grades and detailed information. Install all signage. Install blue reflectors. Need all roadway test reports. Need periodic inspection reports from the developer's engineer. Unlimited work order needs to be issued, awaiting sewer and water construction approval from Environmental Service Department. Should the Planning Commission approve the request for final approval, a warranty obligation will be required for the infrastructure in the amount of 3,443 linear feet at $22 per linear foot with a total of $75,700 for a period of 2 years. The final subdivision request can be approved subject to the developer complying with all comments and no plats to be signed until all items are satisfactorily completed. No mandatory developmental fees are required since a public hearing was held prior to January 1st, 2005. The Department of Environmental Services has comments.
Plans and specification for the construction of the project's water distribution lines and sewer collection lines have not yet been approved by the Department of Health and Hospitals as required. No work order will be issued until submitted plans and specifications are approved by DHH. Submitted as-built sewer and water plans are incomplete and only show the note under construction. A complete set of final as-built must be submitted once the subdivision is complete. A negative bacteriological report relative to the construction of the project's water distribution system has not been issued by DHH as required by Section 4070 of the Subdivision Regulatory Ordinance Number 499. A letter of acceptance and responsibility for the perpetual maintenance and operation of the water and sewer system has not yet been issued by the utility provider as required. Development has no comments.
All right, Mr. Shane.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty. Again, Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell firm, and I represent Money Hill Plantation with regard to our request to get final approval for Phase 7A. If you would, take a look at the staff commentary, beginning with Department of Engineering. I'd like to provide you updates pursuant to documents submitted this evening, and then I'd like to kind of give you a summary of where I think we really are so that we can talk about the issues that probably are most important to you. In paragraph 1 under Department of Engineering, we have submitted plans this evening that suggest that 100% of the roads have been constructed, all road shoulders have been dressed, and all roadside ditches are graded. So we will suggest to you that the documents submitted, which certainly staff has not had a chance to review, but it'll take care of item 1 in their entirety. With regard to item 2, A and B, again, are completed and are reflected on the as-built. Items C, D, and E, that's signage, blue reflectors, and roadway test reports, have not been submitted but will be in short order, or will in fact be installed in short order. Item F at the top of the next page was again submitted tonight. That's the periodic inspection reports. And item G is in fact accurate in that an unlimited work order has not been issued yet by the Department of Environmental Services, and I will comment on that as we go into our discussions. Items 3, 4, and 5 we have no real problem with, other than it may be that the number of linear feet in item 3, 3,443, might actually be less than that, but that's a matter that we will take up with staff, and if they concur, fine. If not, we understand that's the requirement. We certainly don't. We understand that we've got to pay $22 a foot for whatever the number of linear feet of road that in fact should be under warranty for the 2-year period of time. If you look at the Department of Environmental Services comments, I would suggest to you that, and those are 5 paragraphs as you can see. I want to do it in this order. Paragraph 3 was submitted this evening. That's consistent with the comment I made earlier, meaning that we gave as-builts that showed that those things have been constructed. Items 4 and 5 are not untypical as to what you see at final. As you know, the system has to be approved, constructed, operated, and the sampling submitted before those reports come back. That has not occurred. So at this point of our discussion, let me say that other than a few minor and fairly typical items that you see as 2C, D, and E, and also the last 2 paragraphs of Department of Environmental Services, is all that's really lacking, except the fact that we do not have unlimited work order from the Department of Environmental Services. And the reason we do not have that is that we still do not have DHH approval. I think the important things that you should know, Money Hill, of course, is a plan unit development that has central surge and water and H2O, company owned and operated by Mr. McHugh, who happens to be with us this evening. He's not the project engineer, Mr. Burks is. But the point is they provide surge and water to all of the phases. This phase, in fact, has the surge and water system physically constructed in place as per the as-built, but it has not been tied in to the system because we do not yet have the DHH approval. You might ask, why don't we have the DHH approval? That approval, or I should say that request, those plans and specs were submitted about a month ago to DHH, and there was quite frankly some miscommunication with regard to who had seen the plans and who had not. We submitted our plans and specs to Department of Environmental Services back in April, and we wrongfully assumed that those plans had also gone to both H2O and to DHH. I said wrongfully assumed, so I'm trying to take responsibility for the fact that we didn't see that they got to the right spot. The good news is they have gone to Mr. McHugh, and H2O has approved those plans and specs. They were then submitted to DHH, and we are, of course, awaiting for approval by DHH. So we certainly understand that if you grant approval, not only must all of your staff conditions be met, but we certainly understand if there was ever a case where no plat gets signed and recorded, till your staff knows that all of these things have been done, this is it. So I don't think there's anything wrong here, but I admit that it's a little out of the ordinary as it relates to sort of the cart before the horse, in that the lines are in the ground, they've been built according to plan and spec, presumably approved by both your department and the utility company provider. But until DHH gives approval, you cannot connect it or tie it into the system. Then and only then can you submit the sampling, get the negative bacteriology report, et cetera, et cetera. Hopefully I haven't been too verbose, but I thought it might help if I gave some explanation on those items and maybe save you some of your questions. But if you have any, I'll be glad to answer them at this time or whenever.
Thank you, Mr. Shane. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this item? I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commission. Mr. Davis.
Yeah, I have a question for engineering on this. I recall when we were talking about the different phases of Money Hill, at one time they were thinking about increasing their capacity for drainage and water supply. What's this, so with this final subdivision staff analysis report, you still believe that the capacity in which they can handle will meet this, is that correct? Yes. Yeah, because I remember a while back we were talking about this. I don't know if anybody recalls that.
Yes, the
but we
sewer
were talking something about the drainage, and you were thinking about maybe increasing, but you thought you were okay at the point at which you're at now.
Not drainage, it'd be sewer.
Is it sewage?
Sewer and water.
And you're still there? I mean, you're
and
still.
the capacities are there, but we'll let your staff confirm
Yeah,
that.
just. Okay. So we're at what I'm saying is they meet the capacity that's needed
They
to
do, and
finalize this subdivision.
They had to add another treatment plant at some point in the last year, I believe, when they reached a certain threshold in capacity.
Okay, and then that meets this needs. Okay, I make a motion to approve.
I'll second it, but I have some questions.
We have a motion by Mr. Davis to approve, seconded by Mr. Matthews. Mr. Matthews, you had a comment.
Yeah. First of all, the difference in the linear foot calculations, staff, is Mr. Shane correct that it may be less, or is that something that you're all going to have to talk about?
It may be less. We have to, if Sean wants to get our, anyways, there's, some of the servitude has already been dedicated to the parish, so we're trying to hash that out and see how we can do that.
Okay.
The surveyors will get together and.
Approximately 2,700 feet is already in existence.
Okay.
And in the system. So it could be that there's going to be a credit or a reduction in the amount that actually needs to have the warranty protection.
Okay, I just want to make sure the staff agreed with that.
So whatever staff
They do.
determines is not currently under warranty or beyond warranty, we understand we need to put a warranty on it, and we hope that that's something that you would allow your staff to work out with our people.
Now, Jeff, you indicated that the signage, reflectors, and the roadway report are in short order. I'm having trouble with the definition of what short order means.
When do you expect the signage and reflectors to be in and up? Is that 2 weeks?
It's been ordered, so probably about a week, 2 weeks at the most.
Okay,
My
so-
engineer's telling me within a week or two.
Okay, so we can expect this to be completed in 2 weeks, maybe 3 at the most?
That's what it would sound like to me.
Okay.
And
And
that-
one other thing, the surge and water connections that you haven't gotten approval from DHH, this is no different than anything that happened in Money Hill before.
That's
So,
correct.
I mean, there's no reason to expect that this would be any different than getting the approval that
Yes, sir.
DHH has.
I think it would be
Done before.
it would be my opinion, to answer your question, that if this were the first phase of a new subdivision, and for some reason we thought that either your department or the provider had some problem with the design or some element of it, then I could certainly understand how one might question, well, do you think DHH is going to approve this? But this is the reverse of that. We have 6 phases in the PUD? 7 phases in the PUD that are approved. This is actually kind of goes through and is a part of Phase 6, where the lines are there and in place. There is no reason to believe that, quite frankly, I look at it as just adding another link. Once we know that the capacity is in place for the sewage and water, and of course, hopefully we all take great comfort that the plans and specs have been approved by your department and by the utility provider, which means they should be the same as what you've seen in the other 7 phases.
But I just want some reassurance.
Yes, sir, and I
Thank you.
believe the expectation is that it would be approved.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, go to page 3. SD 13-04-001F, Ironwoods, Ward 6, District 6. Developer Owners Warehouse and Real Estate Development LLC. The engineers Kelly McHugh and Associates. This is in Honorable Richard Tanner's council district. Staff?
Periodic inspections have been made by this office during construction, and the final inspection was made on August 26, 2014. The inspection disclosed that all concrete roads are constructed, road shoulders are constructed, and the roadside ditches are functioning. The following minor uncompleted items existed at the time of final inspection and will be completed before the plats are signed. Items A, B, and C are okay. Need traffic signage installed. Need street name signage installed. As-built drawings indicate that there are 8 36-inch by 60-foot RPV CCP, it's another culvert, and 1 24-inch by 60-foot RPV CCP culverts under the roadways leading to lots number 4 and 5. However, the inspection disclosed that there are only 5 36-inch by 60-foot RPV CCP in place. The additional 3 36-inch by 60-foot RPV CCP are required. Should the developer's engineer furnish certification and calculations that the 5 are satisfactory, the remaining 3 will not be required. Item G is okay. Item H is okay. Item I is not needed. Item J is okay. Should the Planning Commission approve the request for final approval, a warranty obligation will be required for the infrastructure in the amount of 2,700 linear feet at $22 per linear foot, with a total of $59,400 for a period of 5 years. Final subdivision requests can be approved subject to the developer complying with all comments and no plats to be signed until all items are satisfactorily completed. Mandatory developmental fees are required as follows. Road impact fees, $1,077 per lot. At 14 lots, a total of $15,078. Drainage impact fees, $1,114 per lot. At 14 lots is $15,596. Fees are due before subdivision plats can be signed. Department of Environmental Services and Department of Development have no comments.
Thank you. Mr. Shane?
Thank you, Mr. Doherty. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell firm in Covington, representing Weyerhaeuser Real Estate Development Company, which is both the owner and developer of Ironwoods. In much like the last case, if I could, I'd like to give you some updates. That is that we believe that items under item 2 of the Department of Engineering comments, that items A, B, C, and D are in place. Item E, the street name signage is on order and has not been installed, and hopefully will be arriving and installed within, I guess we'll say a week period of time, Mr. McHugh tells me. I'd like to comment as to item F. based on a supplemental report submitted by Mr. McHugh, which I doubt has been reviewed by the department as of yet. There are in fact 6 culverts, not 5, that are physically installed, and there is an accompanying hydrologic report which justifies that the 6 culverts take care of the requirement as it relates to handling the water. We recognize that that has to be reviewed and there has to be concurrence by your staff, but we don't want you to think that we have an insufficient number of pipes or that we believe that we're not addressing the parish standard or requirements in that regard. With regard to item G, we can only tell you that we need our contractor to install what we call a back wall and the backfill. The culverts are in place. The culverts, or the pipes, if you will, extend out far enough, but what at least I'm picturing, and I think we all can, is that these head walls need to be built and you have to backfill. I asked a question of when, and I'm told that that should happen this week before Friday, so that's something that's obviously being done. I don't think there's anything else of significance other than item I. And I probably wasn't listening as carefully during the staff report as I should have been. Maybe it was read to you as is. Item I is an issue that we would respectfully request a waiver on, in that because of the elevations of the lots, the size of the lots in relation to the elevation of the center line of the street, this requirement would really produce a very unusual result. In layman's terms, and I'll let engineers comment on this where they think I may paint the wrong picture, these lots are 5 acres or more in size. They have 1 home site. The amount of water runoff that will leave this site will have, it's not that much water, it has plenty of room on the lot to obviously spread, but ultimately it goes into the designated areas that were approved as per the drainage plan. Typically, you know, we get concerned about whether or not the height of the finished floor elevation, if you will, its relationship with the crown of the street. In this case, you have many situations where the houses would actually be on rises or hills, and you would be requiring to build them up even higher, almost as if they were sitting on an anthill. That's kind of what I visualized what the requirement would do. You've had situations like this before where if your engineering department agrees that there is no need to meet the requirement for these lots in this subdivision, a waiver can be granted by you with a 2/3 vote of your commission. So
actually, engineering agreed and we gave you the waiver. That's actually a waiver that the engineering staff can do. You don't need a 2/3 vote for that.
I didn't know that was one that I didn't need from the commission, but if I understand and appreciate that that's a waiver that has been granted by staff, we will certainly accept it. And I think I'm going to sit down and come back if and when someone has a question of me.
Once you've won, sit down. Once you've won, sit down.
Mr. Randolph.
I move that we accept staff approval.
Motion by Mr. Randolph to approve her comments and written report, seconded by Mr. Matthews. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Proposed ordinance to ordinance 499, an ordinance to amend the St. Tammany Parish Code of Ordinances, Appendix B, Chapter 40 of Subdivision Regulatory Ordinance 499, specifically Section 40-032.04 relative to the roadway elevation standards. Staff?
The revision to the subdivision ordinance is required to be in compliance with Section 309 Coastal Zone Management Act grant program that we are involved with as part of our local coastal program contract with Louisiana Department of Natural Resources. We are in year 3 of the grant, and our deliverables for this year include the revision to the ordinance strengthening resilience with the coastal zone. The ordinance revision will satisfy the program change component of our obligation.
All right. Thank you. Do any of the commissioners have any comments? Mr. Davis?
I have a question about just one sentence. Under roadway elevation, I guess these underlined sections is what's being changed, is that correct?
Right.
Yeah.
The section was, the second sentence, this requirement may be adjusted when site conditions make compliance unsafe or infeasible as determined by the Director of Engineering or Director's designee. What dictates unsafe? I'm just saying, what dictates that?
Okay, there are going to be transitions in some cases. If you are building a road and you're tying in with an existing parish road at elevation 4 foot, for example, you have to have a long enough distance of transition to make the change. So there are limited circumstances where it would be lower. Basically, for the last several years, I've been bluffing the engineers whenever it comes anywhere close to make them build at least elevation 6 foot, which is approximately the 10-year still water height. And the engineering department and public works have had to raise some roads in the past several years because of people getting trapped during tropical events. A 6-year still water height is equivalent to Hurricane Gustav.
So there's not like a list of these things that, when this information comes in, that that the Director of Engineering or a designee can say, well, I need to look at and see if this is what's classified as an unsafe situation. This is all dependent on the individual determining it. Is that correct?
This would be on the individual circumstances of each one. There's not like, there's no list of here's what it would be.
Right.
Basically, it's going to be transitions.
Okay, so it's not like a code or anything like
No.
that. It's just something that makes probably just common good sense, right? Is
Yeah.
that what? Okay, thank you.
Paul, I've got a question, and excuse my ignorance, but define infeasible. I've never heard of the word.
Infeasible means it's not practical. Let's say you
Should it be unfeasible or infeasible?
Well,
I don't think that's a word.
yeah. Sorry about any typos, but
That's what sets us apart, guys.
I think the word ought to be not feasible, or 2 words, therefore.
Or not feasible, or?
Yeah. I'm not sure that infeasible is a word.
Do you understand it though?
It's a word.
No, is it? Is it actually a word? Okay.
Good.
okay.
It's a word. Sean got a good.
Do I understand it? It's infeasible for me to understand it then.
All right. Did we have a motion and a second on that, Kathy?
No, we didn't.
We did not. Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second? Okay, all right. Any further discussion? Please vote. All right, motion carries. Thank you. Under old business, SD 13-07-003P, Berkshire, Ward 8, District 9, developer owners Berkshire Partners LLC, engineer J.V. Burks and Associates Incorporated. This is in Honorable Gene Belisario's council district. Request by developer to extend preliminary approval to December 31st, 2014. Staff?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, as per the letter that's in your packet, basically the developer wants to postpone this, to request the extension due to the fact that they have, that they're going to transfer the property to a prospective purchaser, and that has not been accomplished yet, so they want to go ahead and extend it.
Okay, thank you. Jay, you have a comment?
No, sir, other than it's going to be expired, I think the 10th of this month. So they're just extending it out to the end of the year.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Mr. Burke.
This job just kind of was delayed for a while until the purchaser was kind of courted. And we just don't have enough time to get the plans all finished up for the work order between now and the 10th. So that's why we're formally requesting this extension.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any of the commissioners have any questions? Todd?
I move to approve the extension.
Moved by Mr. Richard, seconded by Mr. Matthews to approve the extension. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. No new business, and the only other item on the agenda is adjournment.
So moved.
Move to adjourn. Thank you.